we're gonna jump right in. So essentially, how to stay relevant on social media, especially in 2025. More importantly, it's like why it actually matters and how to actually build your brand. The main piece is social media is not the only answer. If you don't have the talent, if you don't put in the work, if you don't show up, like social media is not going to save you. If you don't do the work, it's not going to matter. Social media can give you that opportunity, and you have to accept and answer that opportunity to make it be relevant. So social media is only there to add fuel to the fire, which is the whole point of this. But like throughout the rest of this, just know like social media is only something that gets added in. It's not the main base. And if you take away from the main base, all those other opportunities, it then gets amplified. And so you're given an opportunity. And if you don't answer that call, now all the other stuff goes away because you were focused on the wrong stuff. So I want to let that like, hey, we're setting the ground. Like this is something that's just like, hey, this is an added bonus to all the training, to everything else that's going on. So that way we know going forward. All right. So in terms of what your plan is for after you're done playing sports, like I know it's sometimes crazy to think about like, okay, like what are we doing currently? Like what are we going to be doing after? And like you have to have somewhat of an idea if you know during the process. So while you're in and you're playing sports, we can document the entire process. So we're not creating content just to create content. We are creating content that is based off of a documentation of what you're doing. So you're going to train, we're filming your training, but it's also the dual piece of we're using that training video to make sure our training is getting better, and so we can use it as a film session. The same way when we dive into game film, we know, hey, we're breaking it down, and we can dive into it afterwards. So this is the documentation process while we're in it, knowing for afterwards, because as you start to get into, hey, we're looking at a regular career, we're looking at a job, we're looking at building a brand, we're looking at having something afterwards, because there's going to be a day where we no longer strap the helmet on, we no longer, lace up the gloves, like whatever it is, there's a day where all that ends, and having an idea going forward, we know. I was always big on like, hey, it's something that matters versus not. So in terms of the true reason of why this ends up mattering is based on opportunities. So you look at an athlete who has a brand, who's got a following, and that coach is able to recognize them. They're given an opportunity based off of attention and recognition. The same goes for if you have the exact opposite of an athlete who maybe doesn't have the recognition, they don't have the following, they don't have the brand. This is where we'll get into it a little bit later in terms of like NIL stuff. But if you have an athlete that has a following, that has recognition, is getting attention, they're going to get more opportunities because it's basically the degree of like the closed mouth doesn't get fed. So if you've got someone who's doing all the same things and they're the same level of athlete, they produce about the same, the person that's getting the attention is always going to get more opportunities, and that's basically why this whole thing is relevant at all. So the main three questions, these right here. So it's why does social media matter in 2025? What's the fastest way to start? Because that's the main piece. And then what actually makes you relevant online? So those three things throughout, like those are the main things that we're going to be trying to be answered, and we'll just dive right into it. All right, so why does this stuff matter in terms of holistically social media and being relevant? It's more visibility, it's NIL deals, it's sponsorships, it's partnerships, and having that brand behind you established allows all this to happen. So if you think about your NIL, it is name, image, and likeness. It's not social media following, it's not anything else. It is your name, your image, and your likeness. And social media, perfect way to blow it up. Social media is the easiest way to step forward and to approach someone with a brand or whatever it may be and say, hey, here's my name, image, and likeness. I'm this valuable versus, hey, I only have 200 people, I don't really post, I got nothing going on. Your values and your variations, especially when it comes to dollar signs, of like, hey, what's something that matters? We can make money from our social media while we're playing sports that allows us to continue and do more in that sports. It allows us to open up training. Hey, now we can partner. Now we can work with someone who's across the country who may be a competitor, and now we can pick their brain. Now we can see what's going on with them, maybe collab on a video, maybe do something. So it's the ability to connect all across the United States and really the world. So your training gets elevated if you're now training amongst the people that you need to be training with. Sometimes if you're just in your high school, sometimes you're the best player and your training gets brought down because guys in your team aren't as serious. Guys in your team don't care. They don't want to play at the next level. This way, you are only in the arena and you're in the room of people who want to get to that next level. And now you're in the room with all of them. Now we talk about the connection. Now it goes back to NIL deals. Now it goes back to getting these scholarships, sponsorships. There's all these different things that happen as a result of, hey, I know this person knows that person, knows that person, that person, and it starts with, hey, we can have a brand and we can create that. So main thing is essentially, hey, it's 2025. Coaches and recruiters, so if we're looking after we're done playing sports, they're looking at our social media. Our social media should essentially be our resume, and the way that this gets done is it's 2025, and we can essentially not even care about anything that's happened in the past. This is from this point going forward, we are going to establish our social media as our resume, and we are going to build it up in a way of what core values do you believe in? Is it respect? Is it integrity? Is it dignity? Is it honesty? Whatever that is, you need to figure that out for yourself, and that's what's going to reign true in this main point of being social media. So from this point forward, it's okay. We're setting our table of, we know what we're doing, we're building our brand, but it's based off of core values to give ourselves that connection, to give ourselves that opportunity, that ability to be able to connect with all these people. So in terms of, hey, this coach saw me off of this video, that could be something. Hey, you're able to connect or send something to someone else based off of attention and ideas. And that's just kind of, hey, we need to be in a little bit more of the digital world. That's all this is saying. All right, let's dive into the next one in terms of making someone relevant online. Now, this is somewhat multiple ways. So you've got people who only post the highlights, which is essentially part of an issue, because if you're only posting highlights, you're only posting your best clips, you're only posting things that are, again, back to in terms of true highlights. Yes, people like it. Yes, people will follow you. But if you don't have something else that's there, sometimes people are just going to look at you as just like, oh, that's just some image, that's just some whatever. Like, it almost turns into you get lost as a real person if they never see you as a real person. And that's the way to kind of bridge these two together, because you think about someone who's in the stands, and you think about like a pro player. Like, they're wearing a jersey, they're painting their face, they're wearing all these crazy outfits. Like, fans get so invested into their teams and their sports and what they're doing when they have a little bit of a connection with a player. You think about like what went on with like the Netflix quarterback and all that stuff. Like, we felt more invested in those players as a result of, hey, we got to see a little bit into their daily life. We got to see a little bit in terms of like, okay, this is what their daily training regimen looks like. Okay, boom, they're up at 5 a.m., they're training and they're done at 6:30, they're hitting a breakfast at 6:45, they're hitting something else at 7:30, okay, boom, they're at class from this time period. So it lets people in on a little bit of the backstory that you're kind of going through that entire time. So if you think about like a Rocky cutscene, like it's only 5 minutes in the movie when you think about it, but really it's like years in the process. So you're giving people the snapshot to come hang out with you, and so you're bringing your phone along, you're bringing something along, and it's like they get that sidekick view of what you're doing. So it's like, hey, I'm training to be, a professional baseball player, professional football player, I'm playing whatever position. This phone is not as important as what I'm actually doing, but there's a little documentation process along the way of, so, okay, what time do I get up? What does my workout look like? What does the stretch look like? What does a pregame look like? What does a postgame look like? What does something look like on an off day? So all these little bitty variables that change. There's like, yep, that's a whole video. Yep, that's a whole new post. Yep, that's a way to help to people. Because when you think about content, you can either have it entertaining or educational. So when you go two ways on that, that's where this starts to get broken in, because you can add your personality. So you think about your niche, like we're in an athlete niche, but now you subset in that and towards like, okay, well, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And that's where, hey, your personality starts to breed and come out of it. And so now, well, I like this guy because he also likes protein shakes. I like that guy because he's a night owl. I'm just like him. Well, maybe I connect with you really well because, hey, we went in the same area. You're from the same part of town to some degree. Like, that's just little extra connection pieces, and that's really all it is. So in terms of who's the one that are getting these NIL deals, there's athletes that have really strong engagement, and there's athletes that get a lot of attention, and they don't entirely back it up. That's just nature, that's a fact. There are guys who are making it to the next level that are getting a bunch of money that aren't that level of athlete, but they got it because they were able to draw the attention. So this is where sports and business come and they clash together. So for a long time, it was never, hey, we're going to pay college athletes. It was never, hey, we're going to let them get awards. There was a lot of guys on scholarship who were playing football because of the hours that they were playing, they were literally choosing between gas and food on like a normal daily, because like if there weren't like a top guy or whatever, there was a decision between, okay, am I going to pay for gas today or am I going to pay for food today? And that element is now gone, because now you have that level of player can use what he's doing to be able to make money. And so now it's about, okay, how do I draw attention? How do I draw eyeballs? How do I get more butts in the stands? How do I get more people to show up as what I'm doing? And so social media is a great way to do that. You've got a billion eyeballs out in the world and in this sphere, to where, hey, now you're posting and you're connecting because, all right, well, you're talking about your pregame meals. You're talking about your stretching regimen. You're talking about maybe it be your faith. Maybe you're talking about a little thing that you're doing with your family or some vacation or whatever. You make people connect with you. Now they're a fan of you, and wherever you go, they're a fan of, and now you get to bring those eyeballs, and you get to bring that and propose that to a company. You can say, hey, I've got 10,000 followers. They're super active. They're super engaged. I know that roughly 30% of them can maybe close on this deal, so you can turn that into, let's say, a $10 product. 300 people, $10, that's $3 grand. So right there, you're able to give them easy money sense, and that's how NIL deals start to make it worth it. So you've got guys who aren't that athletic, who aren't the best person, but they're able to do this well because they're like, I brought all this attention. I'm bringing this here. So maybe they're not the best at what they're doing, but they're bringing it to the world. So like, do you know who Destroying is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That exact thing. You've got guys like Destroying, or any other guys that are building stuff up on YouTube, but like that's always the easy one to go to, because people know him. Like, he's a big name. Now, is he the best kicker? Oh, he's pretty good. Like, he's good enough to back up his opportunities that he's given, but he's put the work in on the forefront, and now he's got millions of fans. Now he shows up, he does a camp, and how many people pull up to those one-on-one camps now? And it's growing, it's growing, it's growing, and that's what we want. That's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're trying to build, is this massive horde of people behind us, and then businesses are like, we'll pay you to have some of those eyeballs. We'll pay you to be a part of this, and that's the nature of, hey, what is NIL? In terms of, we kind of broke into this already, in terms of like, hey, what we're going to actually post, what we're going to be doing, and this is where we now break it into, we can be educational, we can be entertaining. The middle is pretty valuable in edutainment, but the edutainment needs to be one way or the other. You need to be, okay, I'm going to teach people what I'm doing. I'm going to teach them about my nutrition. I'm going to teach them about my daily regimen, stretching, give them tips, give them something educational wise. Or you just go full into entertainment and say, hey, we're going to make someone laugh. We're going to bring them along for here. We're going to pull at their emotions. And there's two differences. And now you can jump in and now you can see, well, hey, when you think about behind the scenes, you've got your pregame, postgame, stretching, warm-ups, cool-downs, during the game, highlights, lowlights, and all of the extra elements that you can add into it. It's documentation. So you film yourself the entire day. Well, your workout, that's a post. What you ate, that's a post. Woke up in the morning at a certain time, you're feeling some type of way, that's a different post, because you can talk to people directly. You know what, I just didn't really feel it today. I want to push through. This is what I'm going through. Your mental state, your different things. So when it comes to what to post, it can really be a lot of things. It's more about understanding it during the process, and so that's where it's documentation and understanding, hey, this needs to be done while we're doing this, rather than just, okay, well, I'm only going to do behind the scenes. You can, but it makes it easier if you just understand, well, just like let it run and then you go do what you're going to do. It doesn't need to be right next to you. It doesn't need to be the perfect angle. It doesn't need to be the perfect whatever, but the underlying base and content underneath it is what's more important. So, hey, you're showing someone a stretching regimen. Well, they don't really care necessarily if the camera's in the corner and you're going through your process. It doesn't need to be right next to you. You don't need to speak directly to the camera. You can do a voiceover later, or you don't even have to show it, and you can just show the stretches with someone else. You can talk someone else through it. So there's a lot of different ways of element to do it, but understanding that, hey, you can break content into anything, and just be kind of aware and knowing that. To that last piece, people follow people, not just random stuff. So the more that you can create someone, this is back to the fans. If I like this person and I say, hey, I like oranges. Do you like oranges? Oh, I love oranges. Boom. We have an instant connection. That maybe that breeds into something where it's like, well, I hate bananas. Oh, same. I absolutely hate bananas. But like, do you like apples? They're like, yeah. Heck yeah. So like little tiny things can breed connection versus, hey, I saw you do something that was super awesome and like I love that. I'm down. Like that's super cool. And it's knowing that they're real people. There's people that follow Mike Trout. There's people that follow Jordan Spieth. There's people that follow Bryson. So the more that you can be out in front of the cameras, the more that you have the opportunity to meet and talk with people, shake some hands, or just be on video, and they can see your face with your name, super common, and what you're doing. You just show up all the time. People are really big fans of that. Yeah, I guess you, not stats. And now in terms of like, okay, what we're doing to build how we actually get started. So realistically, best time was yesterday. We know that. But not knowing where to start, you have to. I mean, I'm guessing if you've created an account, we're good. If we don't have the accounts, we have to decide which platform we want to be on, and then go from there. But the first thing is, we have to make an account. We got to jump in. We have to do something. Now, in terms of viral, consistency, deciding on something, if you show up every day and you decide, hey, I'm going to show behind the scenes, pregame, postgame, some warm up, some cool, whatever it may be. If you show up and you say, I'm going to post every day at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., and you post every day, it doesn't matter necessarily what you post as long as you decide to show up every single day for those times. You can be a little off in a video, you can be a little off an idea, you can try something, kind of not have it. But if you decide up front what you're going to do every day, that's more important than, oh my gosh, this is a crazy idea. Because it's about volume. So quick study, and this would kind of make it make sense. There's two classes. There's one class, and it's a pottery class. So the first class, their only grade is they're making one pot. They got the entire semester to do it. They have to make one pot. They have to make it as perfect as possible. It is only thing they have to do, just make one pot. There was an exact opposite class where their only grade was the quantity of pots that they made. They had to make as many pots as possible, and so the amount of pots that they made was how they were graded. The class number 2, that was deemed to make as many pots as possible, made more pots that were of better quality than the first class. Because the first class was so focused on the one that they made little tweaks or they made little changes, or maybe they completely restarted, but it took this really long time to do it. Versus the first class, it was you had to make a pot so fast, and you had to, yes, it had to meet certain parameters, but you got really, really good at making a pot. And then once you got really good at it, then you were able to make it slightly better and the same speed. You kept getting better and better and better and better. So by the end, you're making these beautiful pots in realistically a thousandth of the time. And that's the same thing with social media. Your first video is going to suck. Your 10th video is going to suck. Probably your 100th video is going to suck. But when you have this consistency of, well, hey, I show up every single day at the same time. I post in terms of the same ideas, and I'm focused on what can I do better tomorrow? What can I do better in the next video? What can I do better with this? Okay, can the caption be better? Can the video be better? Can the lighting be better? Can the actual idea be better? And there's little one-off tweaks all the time. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be amazing, but I'm going to show up at 11 a.m. every single day and then stick to it. Don't care about, oh, this isn't hitting, is it? The numbers behind the screen are real. 10 people, think of a room full of 10 people. You have 100 views, think of a classroom full of 100 people. 1,000 people, now you're in a stadium. Like, it very quickly scales, but a number is a number until you realize people are behind the number. And it's still about show up and stay to it, you're gonna get better. All right, this was kind of, hey, same thing, but now we have a minimum. So I say 3 posts a week because it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So to start out, sometimes, hey, I can't make a post every day, or I can't get started in this regard. Well, start with 3, go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Thursday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever you decide on, stick to it and don't stop. You can add to it, but don't take away initially. Go less if you have to, so start with 3, and now mix in, like we were talking about, all those different levels. Some education, some entertainment, okay, pregame, postgame, some stretching, some workout stuff, some tips, some mental stuff you're going through, mix all that stuff in, and then when we come down to it in terms of this last piece, you choose how much you output. You don't necessarily have to be as active on other people's posts. Like, I know interact with other people, if someone responds to you, if someone comments, give a lot in open. So if someone asks you about, hey, you just gave a stretching tip, be very open with them out in the open and give a lot of knowledge and be able to ask in private. And so there's a nature of people will start to ask as things happen. Oh, how do you do this? Oh, do you have a tip for this? Oh, what's another thing you could do with this? Or hey, I love that. Whatever it is, engage with them fairly quickly. But even if you did it like, hey, you take 30 minutes at the end of the day, you go back through, like some comments, give a thumbs up to some people, just recognizing and acknowledging them. It's not really as like, I don't need a super in-depth long paragraph post. I don't need anything other than just like a comment. Give them a thumbs up every once in a while. Like, it just needs to be, when people reach out, respond back to them and just reciprocate what they're giving to you. Not saying it has to be some lovey-dovey, oh, super over the top, oh my gosh, you're so amazing, thank you so much, I appreciate it. You don't need to do all that. Like, super basic, super simple, and just be basically a real person. Sometimes as you start on this grow, and I did this a little bit myself, so I'm speaking a little bit from like, hey, I messed up. You start to get a little bit distant to a degree because you start focusing on, oh, how do I make this video better? How do I get this thing better? How do I get this thing better? And so you get removed from the people that you're actually like there with, hanging out with the videos. And so if you get disconnected, then it's like you're building a wall, and now they're not really your fans anymore. Now they feel kind of discouraged. So be real. These numbers are, I mean, as you can see, they're from the beginning of the month, so January 13th through the 11th. I had 3.1 million views. And so essentially, all the stuff that I'm talking about, I just put all of this into action. So this is like a formulation documentation process of what I did to get to these numbers. And this is how I back analyzed it. Essentially, was at 3 times a week, then it was once a day, then it was 2 times a day, then it was 3 times a day, is what I built up to. And so right now, I'm at about 3 posts a day. It's across multiple platforms, but again, I didn't start there. I started on one platform, about once a day, once every other, and it just built up over time. And then that number, that's in terms of people actually engaging. That's likes, comments, shares, that's all of that number. Versus this is just the actual eyeballs on the video, and you can see it's just over 500,000 people. So in a 30-day window, roughly just over 500,000 people saw my content. And so what opportunities and ability does that create with those 500,000 people? So you say 500,000. How many of those people are interested in training? How many of those people are interested in clothing? How many of those people are interested in some type of coaching? How many of those people are interested in some type of program? How many of those people are just huge fans? And you start to break that number down into so many things because they're all in their own categories. So now the opportunity is shown up. You've got 500,000 eyeballs. What are we going to do with it? And so this is where you go and you approach a company. You say, I've got 500,000 eyeballs. Do you want to work together on this deal or this deal? And then they're like, yeah, we'll do $2,000 a month. And now you have $2,000 a month to supplement with your training. And so now you get to stay focused and stay in sports. You don't have to worry about going to working at Burger King to supplement to have something, whatever. So this is an easy way to add in, and it ties together with everything that you're doing. So show up and train more, just film it, post it, so then you can make money so you can show up and train more. That's what all of this correlates to, and these are the ways that we can get those numbers to do that. And so in terms of another account, this is from an account that has 4 followers. I think it's at 6 now, so mind me. When I took the picture, it was at 4 followers. But an account that has 4 followers, that's doing essentially, I mean, almost 10 grand in terms of views. So it's basically 7,500 actual people seeing the account. It doesn't need to be, hey, I've got all these followers. If you make your videos right and it's about you give your personality in there, you give your specialized content, again, back to the pre-game, post-game, stretching, whatever it might be, you're putting yourself in that content where you don't have to have a bunch of followers. We've got 7,300 people that saw this page that don't, I mean, based off this number, 7,310 don't follow the page. We'll say the 4, let's take it off. So of that 7,000, back into how many of them want training, how many of them want coaching, how many want whatever product. That's where we can start to go, okay, well, this has 4 followers. if we have these numbers, it doesn't matter about the follower count. So the main thing is, and then even that was a slightly after, hey, it's still working, it's getting better. So this was early on, early stages, it's getting better and going to continue to get better. But the main thing is we don't need a bunch of followers. We don't. Like, it's how good can you make your content, put your personality in there, make people like you, and then boom, it's an easy transition because like those numbers, you take something like this, you send it to a company, hey, we've got 7,000 really active people that want to do something with us, and that's a way to make it happen. So after that, in terms of the 3 questions, why social media matters? Well, you need the relevance, we want NIL deals, and it's a way to grow our brand. Well, what's the fastest way to do that? Show up every day, consistent, and yes, it's quick, but it's more about starting now and never stopping. That's the fast way. The slow way is the fast way, but it's about how do you start, how do you do it correctly, and then just stay to it. And then, hey, being relevant kind of ties in with that one. Staying online, staying consistent, doing the little things well are what's going to keep you relevant. So in terms of those questions and final takeaways, one day will come where you're done playing baseball, you're done playing football, you're done overall sports, and we don't entirely know when that day is, but that day just shows up. And so what are we going to do when that day is over, and how can we set ourselves up to be prepared for when that happens? And this is just another way to do it based off of, well, this is an easy add-in to what we're already doing and a way to make this even bigger. Secondly, when you have an athlete that is able to have the opportunity, grow the brand, grow the people with them, they're just given more opportunities. And then finally, when you have the best time to start, again, it was yesterday, but realistically, do it today. Now we know what we're supposed to be doing in terms of, hey, what types of posts, when to do it, how often, how to stick to it, and that's the way for it to build over time. And questions?
One good question. So for me personally, with my experience, I go to a small school. Like we have say one mom who go and take photos, and like I'm just curious with me personally. Like there's a kid I know who loves to do photos for sports. Like should I say, hey, I'll give you $50, you come out to my baseball game, my football game, whatever. He could do football. Like he came out to baseball. I'm like, should I get him to take photos of me, to like video me, so I can have some footage? Like I don't just want my dad's iPhone footage. Post that because I don't really get much. Like how, especially baseball is like related. I don't know if you know much about that specific area, but it's like I find that a hard sport to really capture fielding, like base running. Like yes, you can kind of get the hitting, but like where am I going with it?
Yeah.
Like what's some good ways there?
So that's yes. So either if you're working with one of your friends, hey, someone that's a photographer can come out. If there is a way that you work it out to where your coach is cool with you having a tripod set up in a certain, to where it's just like, it's not something that you're doing during the games, but maybe if it's something that it's, hey, you have it set up in a place, whether it be behind the screen, or maybe it's down the line, or maybe it's somewhere, or someone that you're working with, that, hey, buddy of mine, he's going to come out to the games, he's going to be here in the first inning, he's going to be behind for this inning, and then we're going to try to get some shots in the field. And I think, definitely work with someone who's either a photographer, videographer, or even if you have someone who's able to just move that tripod and get some extra shots, then over time it's like, okay, well, we've got a bunch of at-bats. Okay, we've got some pitches of you on the mound. Okay, we've got some of you stealing, and we were kind of able to get some stuff. But knowing and kind of understanding that, it's like, okay, well, if you're hitting third and you guys are visitor, okay, we know you're going to be up in the first inning. Okay, so let's for sure get an at-bat. And then, okay, now think about, all right, well, we're playing shortstop. Well, okay, let's try to go down the third base line, and let's hopefully get some shots, and we don't really know. And it's just kind of setting it up multiple different angles for the day. And then especially practice is a really good time, especially. I know school stuff maybe not as much, but to that same degree, if you have, maybe it's even someone on your team, or maybe you guys both are going to do the same thing. Hey, I'll get you on this film to do this, and then I'll turn around and then you can get me. So more or less, like, there's a lot of stuff that, yes, it's really hard to do on your own solo, unless you have a tripod, unless you have someone click record, unless you have someone to like kind of move and shuffle and do things around. But that's probably the easiest way to do it is, hey man, I'll grab you lunch. Hey, someone on the team, hey, I'll do this for you, you do it for me, hey, we'll help each other out. And so bartering and kind of figuring out the way to do that is probably the best. And then understanding the stuff that you do off the field, how can you understand how to best get that done? So is it getting a tripod? Is it setting it up when you work out? Is it setting up when you stretch? Is it something that you want to do? And this kind of bigger question, what is the goal for after we're done, so we could set it up while we're playing? Because I want to use, and my main thing is using sports to set you up and learn the skills and be ready for after you're done. So whether you want to stay in the sports world or you want to transition and become an accountant, how can we give you all of the skills and get you best prepared for that next step? And that's where kind of all this bridges and comes together. So if you understand what you want to do after, like if you want to be a coach, then I think it's, all right, we need to start making some content now of you breaking down your own content and understanding how to coach yourself, and then getting content from your buddies, breaking it down. This is what we would do. This is how to give a little tip. This, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense. Another question, just like specifically like what you've kind of used your platform through. My big one I've kind of preached about, like I have an account, haven't really done anything. I have a few highlights on there, and it's Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I need to go through, just follow a bunch of coaches and just post? Is that like the kind of?
Yeah, yes, both yes and no. So there's a degree of go follow, make that contact, but there's also an element of doing and sending them that type of film, and so having that type of connection. So sometimes that follow is just enough to start the connection, and then once you have the connection, then you can actually message with them, and then after you message with them, then it could lead into then you sending, hey, here's a little clip, hey, here's a something. But sometimes some coaches are never on it, so sometimes it's about their email, or sometimes it's about someone on the team seeing the video. So it's a multi-pronged approach, which is kind of it's semi cop out of an answer. I'll give it to you. It's yes, follow them, send messages, post, but it's kind of leveraging all of them, because then some of them want emails, some of them want text, some of them want DMs, some of them just want to purely find the kid. And so scattered across, it's like how could we best be in all of these areas? Because I mean, when I was doing it, I got recruited based off of, I sent like 400 emails to coaches. I didn't have my social media at the time. I didn't really build it up. I mean, my mom had started something on YouTube where I had like 2 videos, and then I didn't have my own Instagram following. I didn't have any videos on there. I didn't have any of that. It was, I sent a bunch of emails out as a letter. It worked. I mean, I was able to get a couple coaches to respond, or I was able to get something from that. But it's like, okay, comboing that, having your social media at the bottom linked in, your best regards, thank you, blah, 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 website, phone number, all that. Have your social in there as a way for them to, oh, what's this kid's social look like? Because then it gives an easy bridge for them, because they're like, well, we're going to have to go and dig and find anyways. Most applications, most things, they're going to be like, what's your social? So this is an easy way to be like, boom, here it is, go take a look. And then if they see you've got 3 pinned posts that are reels, where it's like, my day in the life, my training regimen, my best highlights, whatever it might be, is just like these ones that stay in your profile, as that's where we think about our social as a resume. So we think about, okay, if someone shows up to this profile, what do they need to look at immediately and see that I do? Well, we're baseball, or we're football, or we do this, or we do. Be really specific, especially in a bio. Be really specific, be really punchy, and then the feed and the post all underneath that. Immediately at the top, the ones that are pinned, those are the ones that should tell the story. Hey, a highlight reel, a what you do, a best about you, like that little stuff, what you stand for and about me, that stuff should be the stuff that's pinned, and that stuff's at the top. So hey, I pop into your profile, I instantly name, bio, all right, well, baseball, football player, okay, training hard to be this, okay, boom. And then I look down and they're pinned, and I see a highlight clip of you, pitching, catching, throwing, whatever, and then there's a different clip, like, hey, you're in the gym, you're training, doing something, whatever. And it's like, okay, like all of this stuff goes together. All of this stuff fits. And if something doesn't fit, it makes it easy for someone to be like, I gotta get out of here. And like that's what gets people off your profile in a dip really quick. And the same with coaches, is if it's just like something doesn't match here, like there's something that seems off. So that's something to be aware of as we build the bio, build the profile. It's be really specific, tell people what you do, have the content to match that. So it's immediate snapshot of like, boom, it makes sense. All this goes together. And then when they get into the rest of the stuff, that's what's like the pull to get them to then get into the rest of the stuff. But at the end of the day, day one, it's not going to look great. How is it going to look day 100? How is it going to look day 500? And so that's the bridge here. It's like, okay, well, we're kind of here. Let's make sure we get the bio set up, the things to match, everything look correctly, start on that consistent schedule. So then that way, hey, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, where are we at and how do we look? Got it?
Yeah.
Good? Sweet. Well, that's it for me then.